The topic that we're looking at in these parallel sessions is this pastoral training in theological engagement. And we have begun already by looking at essentials, basics of our theological understanding and our theological framework. Discernment, that is an understanding of the true gospel and those that do not preach the true gospel. Identity and uniqueness was our last topic, and here we were asking the question of why that's important. Why is it important that we understand our theological identity? And Dr. Ashish helped us to understand the difference between identity as something that we are and understand ourselves to be versus image, and that's something that others see us as. And our uniqueness. And I'm building on that, God willing, today with the help of several other collaborators. Unity and collaboration. Basics of ecumenicity, how to work with other churches and organizations. Now, I also come from a background similar to that of Flip, and that is that I had a fairly narrow understanding of I should say a convinced understanding of where I stood, and also a convinced understanding that others didn't quite have the truth. And how I would work with them, or even should I work with them, was somewhat in doubt. The very word ecumenical was, in my mind, something that was pejorative, something that was negative. Ecumenical, that must mean liberal. It must mean going down to the lowest common denominator. And anybody who can agree to that lowest common denominator, which usually is we think there's a God, that's probably a negative thing. But actually, the word ecumenical is a great word. It's a good word. Anybody know what that means? What does ecumenical mean? Where the origin of that word comes from? It's a good word. What does it mean? Where does it come from? Ecumenical. It actually has a Greek derivation coming from the word oikos or oikeo. It's actually the verb. It's actually the passive participle of the verb oikeo. Those of you who remember your New Testament Greek. So it means the place that's inhabited. And it has come to mean the whole inhabited world. That's the simple meaning. The inhabited world. Oikoumenox. And so ecumenical is the idea that we inhabit space together. All right, that's a good concept. It's not something that we should look down upon. In fact, it's something that we should value. All right, what's the relationship then between what we did last time and what we're going to do this time? At the bottom is our understanding of identity and uniqueness. What I would say is this, that understanding our identity, our theological identity and uniqueness, is foundational to the practice of our unity and collaboration. All right, let me say that again. An understanding of our identity and uniqueness is foundational to our practice of unity and collaboration. Now, let me show you how that works out for Overseas Council in the next 10 minutes or so, okay? How our identity allows us to collaborate freely with others. Here's how it works. Here's Overseas Council and our theological identity, our theological uniqueness is shared with the World Evangelical Alliance. We've made that decision that we believe our theological framework we want to share with the World Evangelical Alliance. WEA has a statement of faith, and we have adopted that statement of faith as our own. It's a fairly broad statement of evangelical faith with 8 or 9, I think maybe 10 brief statements of faith. of what we believe. And we say that's our identity. That's our theological identity as an organization. Now, how does that work out in terms of who we partner with? Well, our organization, Overseas Council, we partner with seminaries around the world, over 100 seminaries around the world. And what we say to them is, we want to partner with schools that share that theological identity. Okay? Without our own understanding of where we stand, of our theological identity, we wouldn't be able to make a choice as to who we're going to work with, who we're going to collaborate with. Okay? Now, we could choose to collaborate with others as well, but at least we understand that we're doing that. We understand, here's our framework, our theological framework. We're going to partner with others outside of that. I'll explain how that works, because we do that from time to time. But with the seminaries we're working with, those seminaries, we ask them, is this theological framework consistent with what you believe? They don't have to adopt that particular theological framework, but does it align with that? Is it consistent with that? And that's one of the criteria that we use when we talk about partnership with those seminaries. Well, who else do we have that we collaborate with? We collaborate with the seminaries. We obviously collaborate. We partner with donors. Okay? And we're very open with our theological identity. This is who we are. Would you like to be with us? Would you like to partner with us? And most of our donors, I would say, probably share those theological convictions. But are there those that don't share those theological convictions? Would you, I believe most of you here would be similarly aligned with an evangelical framework. Would you accept money, funds from a non-evangelical organization? Would you accept money from a secular organization? All right, you have to make those decisions. We do, and unashamedly. But it's not in deception. We say this is what our faith statement is. And whether you would want to join with us or not, that's up to you. All right? And you would make the same decision about who you partner with. But remember, understand first your own theological uniqueness and identity. We also have other like-minded organizations that we partner with, many. One is called Scholar Leaders International. They're focused on doctoral training for evangelicals. Langham Partnership, many of you know that organization, also focusing on doctoral level training. ICET, the International Council for Evangelical Theological Education, a large umbrella organization with hundreds and hundreds of seminaries related to it through their continental agencies. Another strong partner with us, Asbury Theological Seminary. We have a good working relationship with that particular school. We have many others also of like-minded organizations. All of these would align with our own doctrinal frame of reference as well, which, as I said, is broad. It's not narrow, as some of you may have. But how about organizations that don't have an evangelical emphasis or framework? Do we also choose to collaborate with them? And in what ways might we do that? A good example here is the Theological Book Network. The Theological Book Network is an organization based in Grand Rapids, Michigan, that provides books for theological libraries around the world. It's not an evangelical organization. They provide books for Roman Catholics, for Orthodox, for university departments of religion, as well as evangelicals. But we work with them. And let me tell you a few things about that collaboration. First of all, they're not exclusive. They're not exclusive. They welcome evangelicals to work with them. Second of all, there is a spirit of mutual understanding and respect. Okay? They understand where we are, we understand where they are. They don't claim to have an evangelical statement of faith. They know that we do, but we're still able to work together for a common purpose. And that's the third thing. There's a common purpose in our collaboration. And that is both of us value high quality theological books for our libraries. And we work together toward accomplishing that part of our mission. We share that value with them and collaborate in that particular area. Okay? Now, that's some little background about OC and how we think about collaboration and how we practice it. I'd like to introduce a few others. The Christian Alliance Institute of Theology, Milad, is here. Melvin, are you here? We didn't get a chance to, so he's not here. Okay, we didn't get a chance to connect beforehand. Oh, I'm sorry, Melvin, you are here. Thank you. So I'd like to have Milad come, and then Melvin, and then Robert, I think you are here. We talked earlier, Robert's here too. Okay, if each of you brothers could take maybe 5 minutes and share your thoughts about collaboration within your own context and with your organization, and perhaps highlight some of these issues. Milad?
Yes, good afternoon. I'm so happy to be here. I just told Scott that in 5 minutes we're usually still introducing our introductions, but it's okay. I will try to be brief and update you on our attempt at collaboration, and I can honestly say at our failure of collaboration as it stands at the moment. I started my theological journey the other way around. I didn't started thinking that everybody else is not going to heaven, and I came out of Dallas Seminary having heard about an effort going on in Lebanon between different schools, one of ours as well, the Christian Alliance Institute of Theology, with two other schools in Lebanon. They're working together and they're trying to hammer out a certain way of getting things done together. So I came, and the first thing I said when I heard, I was still a student there towards my final years, and I said, well, why just working together? Why not merging all together? And that was my first initial response to that. Now I came back to Lebanon, and I started, my brother who had started this discussion had passed away, my twin brother, so I came back to Lebanon and I picked up where he stopped, and I came and there was a construct that was a very interesting concept at that point, where we're having the three schools, instead of merging together, working together in what we called at that point the Beirut Inter-School Consortium. That is an effort to work together. And when I came and I looked at where they were in the discussion, they had unified their work together in terms of a number of credits per course, unified the schedule and the way they lay out the semesters and when the intensives are. So they unified everything, setting the logistical ground for cooperation. And I thought, oh, this is great. We are at a point where we can actually sit together, and then everything is ready for this cooperation. The idea was each of our schools, which were denominational schools, would have to come to a point where each one of us is developing in a certain direction. One school will take, let's say, Christian education. Another one will develop into biblical studies. And the third one will probably go towards more pastoral skills of ministry or something like that, pastoral leadership. And that was the idea that we were working with, until we realized at some point that we're using the same vocabulary, but we're not talking the same thing. So what I ended up discovering is that there is a huge problem in this whole construct, is that it did not start where Scott was asking us to start, at a identity level. Who are we? What are the things that are non-negotiable? What are the things that we're ready to negotiate and we're open to work with the other institutions? I've discovered that theologically speaking, we were on different pages when it came to the idea of the bibliology, how we understand the Bible. And the second thing that we were not on the same page with was our definition of a Christian convert, or a Christian believer. What does it mean? What is the profile? What does that mean? So after that, we stopped. And we spent a whole year hammering out a common statement of faith where everybody, when they read it, they read the same thing. And not just, yes, this is a statement that I can agree with, and this is a statement that I can put it through my board and the board will agree with, but each one of us is putting a different interpretation of this statement. And after a whole year, we have hammered out a statement of faith based on a broad one that would actually be the basis of our cooperation. Well, that was done and that was great, and we were ready to put this behind us and go on with the project. However, we discovered that there's another glitch, which is our institutional visions. Where are we going to go? It's not like our identity does not lie only in theology and our theological position, but in which direction are we going? Are we wanting to be to produce academicians, for instance, versus pastors? What are we trying to do? And then we came to a point where it became obvious to us that this is not going to work the way we thought it's going to work. So our school was, the way it is built up, it is actually under the church, within the denomination itself. It's not an independent school. It's not a school that has its own board of trustees. It's the board of the church in Syria and Lebanon is the board of the school at the same time. They might appoint other people as board, but they are really the power brokers in this. So, and the way our school is like a hybrid form, where the church and the school are working together all the time. Now, the other schools were not set up the same way, and they were developing in different directions. One of them was developing in the direction of a university, and wanting the divinity department to be the seminary to become their divinity department. Now, our school was not developing in that way, so it became obvious for us that what we have dreamed about was not something that we could actually accomplish. That was a failed attempt. And I'm putting this case before you so that you would know what it means sometimes. It's not just the theology that we agree on, it's the vision of where we're going to go and how we're going to make those two together in the collaboration. We still collaborate at some level between those schools. We share resources, we share libraries. At some point we were sending students to them, they're sending their students to us depending on the course offering and stuff like that, until their changes in the schedule made that impossible logistically. But we're still cooperating, we're still brothers, we work together as much as we can. So we are at the level of collaboration more than it is at the level of unity. So we're talking about unity versus collaboration, and how does that, our dream was to unite it somehow and offer a unified degree, but then at the same point, this didn't work out because of how things develop. So my brief point is this. As part of our identity is not just who we are theologically, it's who we are, where we're going, what we want to do, that is also integrated into that identity, and what is our thrust. And so before we start these kind of efforts at merging, collaborating, or doing something that is that intimate, that big, not just at the level of collaboration, I think we should sit down and lay things out clearly at the table to see how this can go. So this is our experience in that. And another thing that I wanted to do is to outline is that this discussion should happen first, not at the level of the administration of schools, but at the level of Board of Trustees. And that was another failure that did not happen at that time. When I came back, it wasn't at the level of the boards that this discussion was done. So people from the board of our school were not very much behind this from the beginning. So we have to be careful about that as well.
Hello, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. We're talking about collaboration and working with other ministries. First of all, I want to say that collaboration sometimes is a really hard task. At least in the context of Central America, we see the same problem. We are divided into denominations, and it looks like every pastor, every person is trying to build their own kingdom. So growing up in a church, in the church that I grew up, I also believed the same thing, that everybody else was going to hell and was wrong, right? And so I want to talk to you guys about the ministry that we're a part of. We're really involved in training pastors in Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and Panama. The name of the ministry is Bible Institutes of Central America. And so basically the purpose of the ministry is to create servant leaders who handle God's word accurately, also who embody authentic spirituality. Our context in Central America is a very pragmatic, it's a very sensational context. It's experience-based. And so the problem that we're facing in Nicaragua is that when you come in with this kind of training, you are laying out the very foundations of what our faith is. I mean, there are many believers who have no idea how our faith came to be, and so that is the very first challenge that we have to overcome. I mean, we usually have comments from pastors, that always tells us, I mean, I really never thought about it that way. I had no idea that that's the way it came to be. So, I mean, it's just a different level that we are working in Nicaragua. So, we're talking about collaboration. So, the model of our ministry is that we cooperate, we work together with churches in the United States. So, it's a twofold purpose. So, our ministry provides the training in Nicaragua. We do all the organization, all the logistics, but also the purpose is not only to bring training to the pastors in Nicaragua, but it is also to mobilize the church in the United States. There are just so many resources in the U.S. and other parts of the world, and so what we want to do is to be a link so that all these resources and all these assets may be available to the pastors in Nicaragua. So mainly the churches that right now are associated with our ministry are churches related with the E-Free Church of America, and also some others called Fellowship Bible Churches. But we all align with the same statement of faith, and with the one that our brother was showing us earlier. So one of the challenges that we have found in Nicaragua when it comes to working with other ministries is the fact that every denominations are very jealous of what they have. In other words, they don't want. They feel like if they work together with other pastors, like they're going to steal their people. In other words, like they're going to try to gain their influence. And so that's a big problem. That's a big problem when we come into a community. So usually the way we come into a city is that we go through what they call the Pastoral Council. In every city there is a Pastor's Council, and then that's the channel where we try to go through in order to reach to all the churches in the community. So that's a big challenge in our country. And as I said, we're talking about training pastors. We're dealing with people that doesn't have a framework, doesn't have a foundation, and so it's a very basic level. So that is the challenge that we face the most. So thank you very much.
Well, good afternoon. I'm normally used to say good morning, and I know many of us say good morning everywhere. So I normally say good morning, so I'll say good afternoon this day. It's such a privilege to stand before all of you and speak this morning. My name is Robert Wanjoy. I really don't understand why they ask us to do afternoon session, because this is the time that digestion is going through. So if you see me sleeping here, don't worry. I'll finish in a few minutes right now. Well, as I try to answer this question, how does the ecumenical spirit enrich our lives and the ministry? I would just want to reflect what I have been doing as ministry, together with the Ministry of Reach. I've been to several countries, around 14 countries, where I've met different people, different ministries, and different churches and pastors that I have met in these countries that I have been. Just like every one of us who have come here before and confessed how they felt that their ministry is the best one, and the rest, I don't know where they were going. So the same has happened to me also, that I felt that, our ministry, this is the best. But when I joined out the Ministry of Reach, I found out that there are other people that are serving God. It's only that we don't agree on some areas that I know beyond reasonable doubt that we can be able to work. Well, when I saw this, I have come to understand and start appreciating what it has helped me in my life. As you can see, this beautiful flower, we all agree it's a beautiful flower. But if it was only one green flower there, you can say it's not beautiful. Is that true? But with this bunch, when you look it from here, you can say it's so beautiful because it is different. So I learned that we are all different. As when we talk about our own lives, we are all different. Though our Lord Jesus Christ has called us in this ministry, but we are all different. So the way I appreciate the life of many people that are in different denominations is that to know that the first thing that I can be able to learn from them. This is the first aspect that I see, that it enriches me that I can be able to learn from somebody else, because I know the other person, God has gifted him differently from the way I am being gifted. So I can be able to learn. This is how it will enrich my life. The second thing I can be able to say is that I come to have an understanding that we all are gifted differently by our Lord. So I can talk about a person that is in the urban ministry and the person who is in the rural ministry. The two are quite different kind of people. When they come together, we have different way of doing things, different ideas that we can bring together. But when I come to understand that he's been given this gift by the Lord, I can be able to work with him. When we all understand that we are all being different, gifted different, this enriches me and makes me love the Lord more, because I am able to understand that these other people, that God still loves them. Well, the other thing that I have seen, it helps me see that the Lord, the body of Christ, it also helps me as a person. When I talk about being enriched as a person, it helps me to see that the body of Christ has many different parts and functioning different. The functionality of every part of every ministry, every school, they function differently. There are emphasis that they put. It also helps me as a leader to know that other people have been given a different function, that the Lord allows them to work out on that. When I come to the last one, then talking about ministry. Now, this one, when we talk about ministry, we find out the ministry, how I'll be able to work up with another ministry is just one way is to identify some of the needs that the ministries are working. I've worked with the ministry whereby when I go to these African countries, I have to fill in a form to tell them what I believe in, what is my vision, and all that I've realized that all they want to find out is that they want to identify my strength that I can be able to be part of them. So I've realized that in the ministry, where we talk about, if we are talking about ministry, how this collaboration brings us in to work together in the ministry, I realize that when we identify the need, it will be able to it will be able to allow us to work out together. Thank you so much this morning. Oh, this afternoon.
Thank you, Robert. Well, you've heard from 3 different individuals about some of their thoughts about working together, kingdom collaboration. We'd now like to give each of you a chance to talk with each other about this. I have a number of questions. Why are an understanding of unity and collaboration important in theological education? The second one, how does an ecumenical spirit enrich our lives and ministries? And the third one, for what reason, related to theological convictions, might you choose not to collaborate with another organization? All right, they're 3 very important questions. This afternoon, let's focus on number 2. All right, the second one, how does an ecumenical spirit enrich our lives and ministries? And as we've done before, we gather into groups of about 4 to 6 people each and discuss this question, appoint a secretary to write down a few of your thoughts, and then I'll ask Flip to moderate in asking you to share with us some of your thoughts. All right? So let's take the next few minutes, gather yourselves into groups, focus on question number 2. All right?